The piece I'm writing this week is grounded in robust argumentation. Yes. It does have an intellectual academic spin to it. Yes. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just mocking these incels. I'm mocking I'm gonna keep it real with you, Doc. I'm mocking the fact that these fascists who were on that video with Medi Hassan, they are some of the most unsexed people, virgins in the history. Like, they visually look exactly like you would expect a person who can't get laid. And I say that with the love of Jesus Christ, because I know that the number one way to deal with the fascists, especially one that can't get laid, is to point out the fact that you're a virgin and you're going to die a virgin. And you think that you're serving God with your virginity, incels, but in reality, you're going to die a virgin, wake up in hell a dead virgin, and you're going to turn around and be like, Lord, didn't I serve you? And God was going to be like, you might have been a virgin, but you were a hate-filled, bigoted, lying, racist virgin. So you might as well, incels, might as well have gone and gotten laid on this earth and just been a normal human being, instead of trying to overthrow democracy just because you can't get no stuff.
Hallelujah. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Wait, I got to catch my breath, Pastor. Wait a second.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to patreon.com/the BPD Show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and gender non-conforming individuals, to another episode of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am, of course, your host, Pastor Ben. Coming up, I'm going to be sharing an interview that I did with my good brother, Dr. James Peterson, who is the host of the Evening WURD on WURD in Philadelphia, where we discussed what we're going to discuss tonight, as well as what I'm writing about. The fascist who showed up loud and proud to face the entire world, to let the world know that we're here and they're queer. Well, they won't admit that, but they're here and they're proud to be demagogues, fascists, Nazis. If you had a chance to watch the Jubilee media companies Surrounded, which I have some words for them as well. If you saw the episode with Medi Hassan. Now, I'm not going to play a lot of clips here, if any at all, because Jubilee Media is really good about flagging your account and getting your videos taken down or making sure that they're not monetized. So I'm writing an article about it where I will be quoting them. I got an entire transcript of the entire hour and 40-minute episode because you really need to see something. I need you to see and read and understand just how bold these incel fascists are. Incel. Incel is short for involuntary celibate, meaning they can't have sex even if they wanted to. Involuntary. I was celibate once. I was celibate for 4 years once. It was very much on purpose. Okay. I'm living quite the chaste life now. You know, I'm married, so I'm not celibate by long, but it's a very, wonderful, intimate love affair that I'm having with my wife. We have 3 children. And I live the most chaste and holy life that I possibly can. Haven't always been that way. Don't mistake that. I never forget running into one of my listeners at a strip club. So I'm not a perfect, but I tell you, for the last 5 years in particular, I have been living the absolute closest walk with the Lord Jesus Christ that I possibly can. Why am I saying that? Because the incels have converted their involuntary celibacy, their anger, their rage at the fact that they're so ugly on the inside and the outside. Pause. Let me say something. I am not a good looking dude. by any measure. In fact, I have been injured and living with injury so much in my life, my body somewhat looks like a pretzel. Yes. So I'm not stunting, I'm not flexing, I'm not flossing, I'm just keeping it real. If I had been as ugly on the inside as I am on the outside, I never would have gotten married to the most beautiful woman on the face of the planet, my Nefertiti. If I had been as ugly on the inside as I am on the outside, I would have also been involuntary celibate like all of those people on the panel with Medi Hassan last night. The other day, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. These men have created an entire ideology and an entire worldview, an agenda, the plan to overthrow democracy so that they can force the government, or rather use the government, to force women into having relations with them. Excuse my language. It's so hard to do this day and age without cussing, but I shit you not. This is why I'm not pastoring right now. Pastor Jada, my wife, my beautiful wife, mother of my 3 children, she has taken the helm. She is a very anointed woman of God, one of the most prepared ministers of any gender. She is prepared and she is preaching and she is pastoring. Because I had to get in these streets to confront some Nazis, and it's kind of hard for me to do it with one hand tied behind my back. Sometimes I have to use the holy profane, the profane, holy, prophetic word. Sometimes you got to put a little more emphasis on it. I don't want my kids to listen to this because I don't want them to try it, because I might have to, pop them in the mouth if they said so profanity. But y'all got to forgive me. Some devils don't go out. Yes, but by prayer and fasting, but also you got to give them some get right. And these ugly, I mean, they are some of the most malformed, odd looking. And I'm only saying this because they're as ugly on the inside as they are on the outside. That's why you're a virgin, Connor, from the episode last night, who was so proud to say he doesn't believe in democracy, so proud to say that he believes in autocracy, dictatorship, so proud to say that he wanted to use the First Amendment to get rid of the First Amendment rights for everyone else, so proud of his hypocrisy, so proud of his arrogance, so proud to be called a fascist and to call himself a fascist. He forgot to mention that he's an incel. He forgot to mention that he's a virgin and can't get any sexual relations if he paid for it. He forgot to mention that that is the driving force behind their ideology. That's why they're so bitter. That's why they're so angry, because some girl turned them down along the way and they never recovered. Well, my friend, if you just had a little bit of charisma, if you had just a little bit of, I don't even want to use the word swagger, but it helps. If you had just a little bit of talk game, you would understand, like I learned from Biggie Small. I might be fat, black, and ugly as ever. However, I stay Coogie down. Not Coochie, but Coogie. Coojieggie. I forgot how to spell it. It's a brand. It's a fashion. I don't want anybody out here saying that Pastor Ben is talking about getting coochie. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that these incels can't get no coochie. Forgive me, Lord. I got to just say it like it is. And because they can't have sexual relations with the feminine, I mean, I'm sure they get plenty of okay, I'm going to be careful here. I'm not going to get myself canceled. But the circle jerk that they are involved in Nazism, they follow Nick Fuentes, who is the leading, he's so homoerotic. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Listen, as long as you like consenting adults, I am of the opinion, so long as you are with a consenting adult of whatever gender, that is your business. It is when you force yourself on someone, and someone young, which brings me to another thing. Can I just go on a little tangent real quick? I'm gonna go down a lot of stems, kind of like that other guy, Eddie, who was twitching. He had a whole lot of information. I'll give Eddie that much. Eddie had a lot of data, but his data was being used incorrectly. And I believe that he did not believe that Medi Hassan was going to be as well read as him. The arrogance of this uneducated white man. he read a lot of articles. He had a lot of data, but I believe that Eddie presumed that he was going to be able to trip up Medi Hassan. Shout out to Medi Hassan, who follows me on Twitter. I just want to say that, he knows me. Medi Hassan, who is one of the most brilliant debaters in the history of debate. That is one brother I do not ever want to get on the wrong side of and have to debate ever, period, point blank. And here Eddie was trying to trip him up with data, and he was stemming. He was going through all kind of stems, and I get it as myself. Listen, I'm not diagnosed with anything. I'm not even diagnosed with a partially broken neck, but I've been living with a partially broken neck for a very long time. So when I say I'm a bit autistic, it's not diagnosed. It's because I'm starting to recognize I've got some peculiarities about myself. I'm rather neurodivergent. Okay, so when I say this, I'm not saying it from an ableist perspective. I'm saying it like DJ Exclusive, my DJ on Saturday mornings, who looks like a bouncer, but he's proudly from the LGBTQIA community. So when he calls someone gay, DJ Exclusive is saying it from within the community. And so when I talk about Eddie's twitches and his neurodivergent kind of stemming and kind of following and twitching and all the stuff that he was doing, I don't say it to insult him, but I will talk about his peculiarly, his really strange face. His face, really weird looking, brother. And again, I'm saying that because I'm an ugly dude. Okay. So from the community of ugliness, I can say that those were some of the most ugly people on the inside and on the outside that I have ever seen. These were not dapper Nazis. Mother Jones article from years ago, who started this foolishness, if you ask me, writing an article about dapper Nazis. Nazis are to be punched. According to the principles of the people of good faith, as best as I can tell, one of the preeminent axioms and rules of the people of good faith is that Nazi lives don't matter. I'm wilding, y'all. I had such a good time with Dr. James Peterson. This brother is brilliant. And to be able to sit in a room with him digitally and just discuss matters of brilliance and black brilliance. And then we just started cracking up laughing. We had such a good time in the short time that I had with him. I'm going to play a clip of that. But I just kind of want to just really make something plain. And you'll be able to read it in the article. Tomorrow, the article, I'm not pulling any punches on these devils. When your intention is to cause harm to my people or the friends of mine, when Eddie, who was the weird shaped face looking guy, he was buff, he was buff, but his face was unusually round for a guy who's so buff. Like, he needs to do some of that mewing. Was that called mewing, where you do the chin exercises to get a firm chin? I can't even do that. Like, again, like, to look at me might be to kind of be disturbing because my body is kind of shaped a little bit like a pretzel, if I were to keep it 100 with you. And never really said that publicly before because it took me some years to actually deal with the physical trauma that my body has been living in since I was, first accident was 8 years old, then 12 years old. I got in another biking accident, and then 14 years old, I got hit so hard on the football field. I flipped 3 times. I remember seeing the sky twice and the ground twice, and then woke up and walked home 2 miles with a half broken neck. And you know how insurance is set up in the United States of America. So I never got my half broken neck looked at, but I just been living with it. And then it actually even got worse somewhere around 22. My dad I was wrestling and he accidentally dropped me on my neck. So, I've been messed up for a long time. Not pleasant to look at. But I've never had difficulty. I mean, it wasn't easy now. Women weren't just throwing themselves at me. I'm not going to say that lie. In fact, I understand the pain of the incels. I understand what it's like to want to be desired, to want somebody to look at you and to desire you and to pursue you with y'all know when a woman wants you. Come on. When a woman really wants you, she pursues you like nobody's business. And to not have that as much as you want is fracturing. It ruptures your psyche. Everybody wants to be desired. And what the incels have done, because they are as ugly on the inside as they are on the outside, that's the thing. If you had just a little bit of charisma, if you weren't such an arrogant, pompous, narcissistic set of pricks, your ugliness on the outside would not have prevented you from enjoying, on occasion, not every time you wanted it, man. You should expect, if you're not a certain height and a certain physique, that you're going to get turned down more. But it's, it's a numbers game. You go out there and be nice, and be kind, and be respectful. And then eventually you're going to have some girls that do throw themselves at you. Now, I'm not going to recount for you all on this episode or ever. All I'm going to say is that's how I got my wife. Because I had a little bit of talk game. I knew how to make her giggle. I realized a long time ago, if you can make a woman genuinely giggle, kind of giggle, everything else works itself out. But we're dealing with a generation of involuntary celibates who think that they have a right to stand with a level of arrogance and demand, come over here, woman, and give me some sex. And when they get turned down, they start organizing, quite literally organizing, creating a philosophy and a worldview to demand that the government compel women to give them sex. This is where it all began. This is part and parcel of the reason where we are. MAGA has been using the unlimited supply of fuel that comes from men who can't get sex. That's as nice as I can. They have been using that energy to drive their movement. And here's the thing for MAGA that they don't realize: they could never control that movement. That movement is almost in a position to control them. And this is how we are where we are. I want you to pause and really think about it. What does it mean for fascists to be able to come out of the closet and be so loud and bold and brave? See, this is why you have to punch Nazis early, and not me. I'm too small. I'm like 5'7". Most of the people on the video last night probably would beat my ass really good. But I'm fast. I'm fast for a guy with broken ankles. Sprained ankles. I don't know. I'll get to a doctor one day. Insurance is too expensive in the United States of America. I've just had to live. I've had to survive. I've had to move on. And as long as I could, march in the marching band, and as long as I could do the dance routine, and as long as I could, do my thing when I had to do my thing, I never really, I stayed alive. But I'm fast though. So they'd have to catch me. That's my advantage. I talk fast and I run fast. I'm sorry, I had too much fun with Dr. Peterson, so I'm going to play that tonight. But tomorrow I'm going to publish this article because I am going to take some time to scorn and mock these incels. But I'm also going to break down for you the cycles and the patterns of what this really is. Right? There's something universal and fractal, Fractal. Fractal. It repeats throughout history. It repeats across levels of existence. What do I mean? Like it repeats in an individual person's life. It repeats in a community's life. It repeats in a nation's life, and it repeats in the lives of humanity as a whole. A cyclical reality of scapegoating, of being alienated and taking that anger and that rage from your alienation, from you not being able to accomplish and achieve what you want. In particular, it's extremely germane when you can't get the women that you want. Oh man, when men can't get the women that they want, they become violent creatures. And I wasn't above that either. I wasn't always, the dapper Don, pretzel that I am. That's why I wear suits all the time. Did you know that? I wear suits all the time because I take that suit off. You're going to be like, oh, put the suit back on. Put the jacket back on, brother. I haven't always been charismatic, and I haven't always been knowledgeable of just how to be a good person. Right? It's not game. It's not talk game. I mean, I got talk game. Don't get me twisted there, right? I can talk myself into a fight and talk myself out of a fight as quickly as I talk myself into it. You know, you got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to talk to a woman. You got to be able to just be cool and chill and talk to her and not take arrogance and pompousness and narcissism and try to make them little. Why what is this? We're going to get to this episode. We're going to get to a whole lot more. And I'm going to play this clip of the conversation I had with Dr. Peterson. It was a great time. Love that brother. Brilliant brother. Y'all go and subscribe to wherever you find him. Go and follow WURD in Philadelphia. I didn't even ask them permission to get this video, so I don't know if this is okay or not. I hope it's okay, Dr. Peterson. If not, just, tell me next time and I won't do it again. But But I'm going to be real with you all. It is a problem for democracy that we have so many entitled men who believe they have the right to women's bodies. And I wasn't always freed from that patriarchy, to be sure. I had to come to a point in my life and accept that I am not entitled to a woman's body. I am not entitled to sexual pleasure from a woman. I had to accept that in marriage. You know what these Catholic nationalists like Nick Fuentes believe? He literally said it. I don't know if I feel like looking up the clip for you. I might drop it in here. If you don't hear it, that means I didn't feel like looking it up, but you can look it up yourself. Nick Fuentes believes that women must in marriage give sex to the man no matter what. And for them not to give sex to a man no matter what is a deadly sin. What do you mean, Nick? You mean you're going to kill your wife if she doesn't give it up to you when you want it on demand? This is the mentality of these boys. They're not men. They're boys. And that's an insult to boys, because even my young boys, my sons, know better than this. They're children, but that's an insult to children, because most children have better sensibilities and manners and know how to treat people better than that. They know that their body and someone else's body, and they know not to touch each other. We teach them some basic rules as children, and we've got grown men who don't understand how to respect the autonomy. So now we have a whole movement of involuntary celibates who then became fascists, and they wrapped their involuntary celibacy in the language of Christianity, particularly Christian or Catholic nationalism. And they believe that they are walking holy before God because they're virgins, but you're not a virgin by choice, my dude. You're a virgin because you can't get none, because you are as ugly on the inside as you are on the outside. And here I am, ugly as ever on the outside, with some really beautiful women in my past. But the most beautiful of all in my present, the mother of my children, Pastor Jada. That girl's pretty. I look at her any given day and I'm like, man, you know what? I would always choose her out of every room I go into. There's not a room I would go into. I don't care how fine and pretty the other one. Ain't none of them prettier than my wife. And here we are raising 3 beautiful kids, and I'm walking around the house looking like a half-broken pretzel with a half-broken neck. A little bit of, it's not easy to look at me. And yet I'm not an incel. And yet, had a pretty healthy, robust life, read between the lines. I'm not going to brag on that. That part's about forgetting those things which are behind. Forgetting those things which are behind, I press towards the mark. Here's the thing I want to say to the involuntary celibates who are listening. If you've listened this far and you haven't been so triggered that you threw your computer, your phone, or your radio across the room. If in this process of being fake about your celibacy, because that's what you are. Let's be for real. You didn't go to God. You didn't go to Christ out of genuine pursuit of Christ. You looked at yourself and said, self, I'm going to be a virgin for the rest of my life. So what can I do with this? And someone told you, hey, that might work out really good if you go into the Catholic Church because they take a vow of celibacy. Now, they took a vow of celibacy. You just couldn't get none. But let me stop rubbing it in. Because here's the truth of the matter. Here's what I really do advocate now in this part of my life when I have really matured to the point of accepting that I am not entitled to a woman's body. And not even my wife's. When my wife is ready, then we're going to have a good time. If she's not, I got to do something else with my time. I need to go to work. I honestly, I don't watch pornography. Not that I never did. What was that? The Bang Bros and the Bus. I want to keep it real with you. I have not always been as good of a Christian as I am now. Right? But when my wife says she's not in the mood, I don't get mad at her. I move along and I go on about my life and I accept it. I don't go and watch porn. I don't do anything. I just accept the fact that, well, I'm just going to have to wait a couple of days. Sometimes, more days than I might like, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that where I am in my life and the level of respect that I give not only my wife, but I give myself now to accept that I'm not an animal that has to just get it when I want to get it and have to get it. But I'm a man. I'm a human. I'm a person. And I can control myself. And it is in that self-control that is voluntary. Of course, I can nudge my wife alone. I know how to entice her. I can, I know where she likes to be kissed. So I am very capable of self-control is the point, incels. When you have actual self-control, there is a level. I'm talking to the incels, especially the Catholic incels, the ones who think that they're doing something for God. I want to tell you something. When you actually have self-control, and self-control goes beyond, my friends, it goes beyond sexuality. Self-control goes into, can you control your anger? Can you control that hatred that's in you, that bigotry that's in you? You don't even know why you're upset with that person. Can you control yourself though? Can you not snap when you want to snap? Can you control your temper? Can you control your rage? Can you control yourself when you're in the momentum of the crowd? When the crowd is moving in a direction, can you control yourself and say, no, I'm not going that way? Because if you can control yourself, I'm talking to the Catholic and the Christians and the believers, the Protestant, whatever, I'm talking to those incels. If and when you can truly have self-control over every aspect of your life, I want to tell you a big secret. Then you'll hear from the Lord. Then you will receive divine transmissions. How do I know? Because I've got catalogs. I've got books. I've got volumes of information that the Lord has been transmitting to me. And actually, let me correct myself. God isn't just transmitting to Ben Dixon. No. There's a transmission occurring at all times, on all channels, on all frequencies, at every point in time, space, and in between dimension. The same message is being transmitted on all frequencies, but you cannot hear it if you don't have actual self-control, not involuntary celibacy. That and the fact that being an incel and being a virgin is not the key to get into heaven, you dummies. You're not going to go to heaven just because you're a virgin. How stupid are you people? You're a bigoted asshole on earth. Excuse me, Lord. You are a narcissistic, mean-spirited, selfish, murderous, power-hungry, little scrawny little bastard. And you think just because you're not getting sex that you're somehow going to heaven? Oh my God. I was going to say, who have y'all been listening to? But clearly you've been listening to the homoerotic, homo suppressed Nick Fuentes, who constantly talks about and flirts with you all. Do you all not see him flirting with you in every episode? He's trying to convince you incels to sleep with him rather than sleeping with women. He literally said sleeping with women is gay. That's who you've been following. And that's why your minds are so twisted and distorted that you actually think that you're going to heaven because you're a virgin. Meanwhile, you are an evil, sadistic fascist like everyone on that panel that attacked Medi Hassan last night. I'm going to go here because I want to make sure I get this episode out tonight. Tomorrow, I'm dropping the article where I break this down. I am going to mock them just a little bit. Maybe the first 3 paragraphs, I'm going to mock them. Yes. And if it sounds a little bit ableist, it's only because I'm from the disabled community myself. We debate about this in my household. Am I disabled? Is being injured the same as disabled? I think so. I'm not looking to claim it. I'm not like trying to do the oppression Olympics, but I'm trying to come to terms with something I was oblivious to, living in shock for like 20 years. You know, you get so used to the injuries that you forget you have them. I'm so glad I lived before cell phones were ubiquitous, because man, I was so oblivious. My homeboys remember this. I was so oblivious to my injuries and how absolutely like extreme they are, that I was in a club dancing with these beautiful women. We had a good time. Like I still could dance. You know what I mean? That's why I never knew something was wrong with me. I'm in the club dancing in my early 20s before I met my wife, obviously. I'm in the club dancing. We just the boom. It was a little club down in South Florida. The music going off, the drinks were flying around, and the women were hot, and I'm on the dance floor moving. And I messed around. I had on a wife beater, a t-shirt underneath, and I took off my shirt, started swinging around, and I don't think the music actually stopped, but it feels like in retrospect the music stopped, and the bouncer was like, "Sir, put your shirt back on." Anyways, here's me with Dr. James Peterson. We had a great conversation. I want you guys to be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode, but also to get this article because I want to break down for you what's actually happening. All right, folks. This is probably going to be the end of what you hear from me at the end of this interview. I'm going to cut out with the music and the outro, and I'll see you tomorrow.
WRDS at wordradio.com. Folks, I am super excited to introduce my next guest, Pastor Ben Dixon, host of the Ben Dixon podcast and one of the greatest interviewers of all time. Welcome to Evening Words.
Brother, how are you? It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you and WURD in Philadelphia.
Bro, it's great. It's great to have you on. I'm serious about that. We taped an interview with me on your show about a week ago, and it is easily the most comprehensive interview that I've given this year, and probably maybe even over the last year and a half or more. So I appreciate that. I got to make sure I check it out whenever that episode drops. Pastor Ben, there's a lot of things that you and I could talk about here today, but I am going to assume that you've seen some of the clips from Medi Hassan's takedown of the circle of 20 or so Nazis on the Jubilee program.
Yes.
For folks in our listening audience who maybe don't follow Medi Hassan or don't follow Zateo, give us a little backdrop about Medi Hassan, and then let's get into this him destroying these right-wing extremist Nazi types in debate fashion on the Jubilee program.
It was spectacular, wasn't it, brother?
Oh.
In terms of his performance, it was terrifying in terms of how proud and loud these fascists are. But Medi Hassan is a British American naturalized citizen, right? He's an immigrant. He is of Indian descent and he is a Muslim. Just giving you all the categories that he falls into for your audience. But one of the most brilliant and most prolific debaters I have ever seen. He is one person I would not want to go up against in debate. But that didn't stop a lot of confident, misinformed, malinformed, uninformed Nazis from trying to not only compete with him, but to intimidate him with their brashness. They were unashamed, self-avowed fascists, like literally came out of their mouths. The fact that they want to destroy democracy, the fact that they want to get rid of people like him, the fact that they think Donald Trump should go even further in terms of violating the Constitution.
I mean, and folks, folks, if you just Google Medi Hassan, Medhi Hassan, put that in your Google machine, it will take you right to the story. This is one of the biggest stories on social media right now. I don't know when they taped this interview this weekend, but if on my social media feeds, this is the biggest story. And there's multiple clips circulating of him. Literally, let me set the stage for you, and then I'm going to pass it back to Pastor Ben for the breakdown. Basically, the way this show is taped is you have an individual that sits at a table in the midst of a circle. And there are about a couple of dozen people surrounding this person in the shop. And then one by one, each of the folks come from that circle and sit at the table with this individual, allegedly to debate him or her. Now, I don't know how it was set up that they put Medi Hassan, Pastor Ben, in a room with a bunch of literal Nazis. Like, these are literally people who support, these are quote unquote Americans who support autocracy, who support fascism, who believe that the only real citizens of this nation are white folks. They are unabashedly white nationalists. These are folks who support the genocide in Gaza. These are people who believe that they don't believe necessarily in the Holocaust. They support and sometimes embrace the label of being a Nazi.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, Pastor Ben.
Yeah, no, that's exactly who they are. And I have to call out Jubilee Media. That's the company that does this show called Surrounded. And I'm calling them out not only here, but in a piece that I'm writing about this, because they intentionally had to go and find the most racist, bigoted, like it's hard to find a whole lot of people that would get on international streaming to the tune of millions and millions of views and just openly admit, yeah, I'm a fascist and I'm proud of it. But Jubilee Media found them. And it shows that they have no concern about this country or about democracy. They only want the clicks. And I think even further than that, I've noticed a trend over the year or two that they've been doing this, that they have pushed the envelope further and further in terms of the type of guests that they allow on, opening the Overton window now to where we're dealing with Nazis on their platform.
Yeah, Pastor Ben, so I'm conflicted on this a little bit. I agree with you that Jubilee should be held accountable for this. We shouldn't be platforming Nazis. I think the question is it better for us to have Medi Hassan intellectually assassinate these folks on this platform, or should we just not provide a platform for this level of ignorance and hate? I mean, the reason why I'm conflicted about that is because I actually believe that those 20 individuals, with all their hate and their fascism and their support of autocracy, their denial of Holocaust, their support of genocide in Palestine, I actually believe that they represent the way that some people think in this country. And by the way, most of these folks are young folks. Just to be clear for our listening audience, these are mostly young folks. They're mostly white, but not all white. They're mostly white, but not all white. They're mostly male, but not all male. But they are younger generation folks. Pastor Ben, I think they do represent people who think and feel that way, although they may not be as vocal or as stupid to come on YouTube and talk about it, but they represent people who feel that way in this country. I'm conflicted as to whether or not the value of Medi Hassan dissecting them that way in such an efficient, powerful, and really constructive way, if you will, versus not having that hate on any platform in the first place.
Yeah, I feel that conflict that you're feeling. I think I'm with you about 90%, but where do they go from here? Who's next? because they're pushing, if they're doing this for sensationalism, then they've got to push the envelope even further. And then at what point do we say these are ideas that we can't, as a matter of a structured society, allow to be this promoted on this level of a platform? I think Medi did a wonderful job, but the alternate side of that is the fact that there are a lot of Nazis who are proud today, all through social media, who are heralding these individuals. And when we see the asymmetry, Doc, in terms of that algorithm, you know, they've got plenty of platforms, they got plenty of outlets, they have plenty of push and algorithmic support, and the voices that combat them, we're the ones that are marginalized in a significant fashion. So I really kind of believe in the policy that Bill Clinton got rid of. The fairness doctrine, right? There needs to be a truly fair and balanced representation. And I think that they have some responsibility to say these are not our ideals, right? They need to make some kind of statement to that effect. It's a crazy mixed up world. But how do we handle it? I don't know. We just have to work our way through it one debate at a time, apparently.
It is a bizarre world, Pastor Ben, because those right-wing folks, first of all, the algorithms on X are elevating those clips, pushing them out to promote those views. But I'm watching the same things that these right-wingers on social media are watching. I'm seeing it, interpreting it as Medi Hassan is dismantling them intellectually, and they're seeing it as their victory. Like, these folks are doing exactly, right. They're getting it off. They're doing it. Right. How can we be literate in the same ways but see things so differently in this world?
Yeah, so they've gotten rid of the concept of a shared truth, right? They've gotten rid of any notion of objective reality, and that's because truth is an enemy to them. And so they have created these echo chambers, these silos where they can be comforted amongst each other. So long as there's somebody that will retweet them, they don't mind going out there and saying, hey, this guy did a spectacular job, when in reality, he got completely decimated. All that really matters is that their echo chamber gives them a pat on the back. And so now we have conflicting and contrasting echo chambers of truth. And we just simply don't have a shared reality anymore.
But that's the craziness, though. They think that we're in the echo chamber.
Yeah, they really do. They have mastered the art of projection. I mean, they've created this perfectly hermetically sealed bubble for themselves, and without the ability to rupture it, no one can get through to them. They have a level of confidence that will allow them. I mean, just really think about it. They are so confident in their Nazism that they went on, for lack of a better phrase, international television. Everybody in the world is going to see them, and they're so confident in it. And that shows you just how hermetically sealed their realities are, without anyone intervening to compete or to challenge their frame. They're just in this one circle of I can't finish that phrase, but they're really just patting each other on the back and saying you're doing really good, when in reality they're really in bizarro world.
It is masturbatory, though, in the sense that it is designed to stoke a certain level of ignorance within their own context. I could talk about this all day, but I want to move on to some other things. Pastor Ben's back on WURD 900 AM, 96.1 FM, wordradio.com, and the Word Radio app. I want to welcome back to the program Pastor Ben Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Pastor Ben, welcome back to Evening Words, and thank you for being here, brother. I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking time, especially to rock with me for a couple of segments. So I just want to talk about. I know you have a good mind for technology and around the Epstein styles, like we mentioned, it's the politics of distraction. But can you talk to
the top influencers on Twitter? Are not talking.
We have the Medi Hassan story. We've talked about this fake, trumped up,
selling it to the masses as if Donald Trump is finally stepping up and releasing the information, when in reality it's not even a fraction. It's a fraction of the fraction of the material. That said, it's also because he clearly is not giving them what the people are doing.
Like, we don't really care so much about whatever the federal administration is going to do. God willing, I can live under the cloak of his protection. But
yeah, I have to start with CBS, right? Because yes, especially 60 Minutes. seen the complete through line that Charlemagne the God, if this goes as far as to bring to us?
Yeah, God forbid, but there may not be any way to avoid that. I want to stay here for a minute, Pastor Ben. I know you're writing about whether or not and how we, what's our accountability metrics for platforming hate and Nazism. This week, I'm writing about what are the kind of small acts that individuals need to kind of embrace in this moment where the rise of fascism is so pertinent. I don't want to dip into your pulpit notes for this upcoming week, but I'm curious as to what from your perspective, what are the ways that we have to resist this? You and I have just kind of run down a brief, but I think incisive articulation, especially on your part, of some of the stories that are dominating the news in this country on this Monday, July 21st. That's a lot of hatred, a bit of fascism, a lot of politics of distraction. There's a lot there, enough to overwhelm a WRD listener, Pastor Ben. And so what are our countermeasures? What do we have in our toolkit to resist, to react, to be proactive, and to prepare ourselves for whatever might be next?
You got to forgive me for chuckling, for those of you who are watching the video, because I really I have an intellectual academic spin to it, yes. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm just mocking these incels. I'm mocking I'm gonna keep it real with you, Doc. I'm mocking the fact that these fascists who were on that video with Medi Hassan, they are some of the most unsexed people, virgins in the history. Like, they visually look exactly like you would expect a person who can't get laid. And I say that with the love of Jesus Christ, because I know that the number one way to deal with the fascists, especially one that can't get laid, is to point out the fact that you're a virgin and you're going to die a virgin. And you think that you're serving God with your virginity, incels, but in reality, you're going to die a virgin, wake up in hell a dead virgin, and you're going to turn around and be like, Lord, didn't I serve you? And God was going to be like, you might have been a virgin, but you were a hate-filled, bigoted, lying, racist virgin. So you incels might as well have gone and gotten laid on this earth and just been a normal human being, instead of trying to overthrow democracy just because you can't get no stuff.
Hallelujah. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Wait, I got to catch my breath, Pastor. Wait a second. We had to change up the hot 60 there. I don't know. Wait. So wait, Pastor Ben. First of all, that's incredible. I appreciate your honesty. But also, most importantly, I think you have shown us a thesis that's important here, that the mockery of these fascists is one of our most powerful tools.
Absolutely. Ridicule and scorn. They are sensitive. They are fragile. They want to be taken serious, but if you highlight the fact that they are nothing more than a joke, then that triggers them, that catches them off kilter, that gets them off balance, because they've made these echo chambers of confidence. I mean, you just sit back. If you jump on my timeline, you see one of the biggest tweets in the conversation about this issue on Jubilee and Medi Hassan and these fascists is a fact that I had to point out, bro. You thought it was hard to get laid before this? You went on there. And I mean, listen, I'm not a good looking brother. I live with physical injury, right? I've been injured since I was, I don't know. I got so many injuries that, I kind of have a broken body. But brother, I have never in my life had a difficult time getting affection and attention from a woman because I was equally ugly on the inside as I was on the outside. I feel like Biggie, I'm black and ugly as ever. However, I married one of the most beautiful women in the country. So if these gentlemen would just get their acts together and stop being assholes, excuse me, Lord, then they would absolutely be able to be normal, functioning civilians.
So Pastor Ben, I'm having too much fun on my own show here right now. I'm having too much fun on my own show right now. But let me just be clear here as well. That I'm laughing, but you're talking about something that is actually quite serious, which is an evolving incel community. And I would love for you to break that down for our listeners.
Yeah.
That is deeply entrenched in the politics of grievance, generally directed at women, but also
Absolutely.
directed at anybody else that they want to hate. And I'm thinking about the comments that former President Barack Obama made on Michelle Obama's podcast, this very same stretch of the Overton window we're talking about, where he's like, and Obama's the consummate girl dad, and he's like, look, I gotta admit that progressives or folks on the left, whoever you want to call them, have not been messaging to boys in a way that's been constructive for boys. Now, I'm paraphrasing, Pastor Ben, but that's essentially what he said. Now, the extreme outcome of that is the growth of this incel community that we're laughing at, but they do pose a fairly serious challenge. When you when you look at mass shooters, when you look at toxicity on the internet, there are things that we can tie back to this community that are producing levels of ill will and violence in our society that at some point we're going to have to reckon with. So you and I laugh. But there's something serious here. Let's talk about this a little bit, Pastor Ben.
Yeah, so incel stands for involuntary celibate. And they've named themselves this. This is a name they gave to themselves. It's quite literally because they could not have sex. Nobody wanted to have sex with them. Now, we can talk about that on so many different levels, but it is a hard thing growing up and you're not attracting the women the way
they believe that the majority of women in this world are attracted to a minority of men in this world.
Yes, and they concocted, man, I saw this many, many years ago on the forums back in the day. They concocted this thesis that if they can seize control of the government, change culture in a dramatic fashion, take us back to a time before women had rights, then it would be easier for them to get laid.
They want the government to force women into sexual servitude. They see the Handmaid's Tale, Pastor Ben, and that's the future they want.
That's the future they want, all because they don't know how to talk to women. But I digress.
There it is.
And the truth of the matter is that they have organized. They have found each other online. They've organized. They've taken a joke and they've built it into an ideology. They have merged this ideology with the nationalist arm of the Catholic Church. And this is where it gets real dangerous because the attendance at Catholic churches has risen and it's all young, aggrieved, white.
This is where you get those characters on the Jubilee show with Medi Hassan who claim that they want a Catholic government, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so they've married this idea that their celibacy, this involuntary celibacy, is some type of morality and righteousness that they can now present to God and say, I'm living a righteous life. And so God has now ordained me to be a crusader. They go from being virgins to saying, okay, now I want to go on a crusade and I want to purge society of all of the infidels. That's their goal. And that's the next move. And so to me, I'm like, number one, if we're talking about God, you're not going to heaven just because you're a virgin, my guy, not when you have so much hatred in your heart. So if that's your premise, let's expose that fallacy in the first place. But then number two, like there's just so many things about this that is laughable that we shouldn't take seriously, even if we take them seriously. Like we should not fear them, even if we organize around the fact that they're dangerous. So I'm not saying we take them lightly. I'm saying that mocking them is a strategic action in the order of Mark Twain. I think one of the best things that we could do is ridicule and scorn someone like Donald Trump. Never let them have confidence that's necessary to go to the next level. And so in the mockery, it's very intentional to fracture their frame. If we don't crack people's frames open and all they do is just kind of have that masturbatory kind of patting on the back over and over again, you go from being dregs on 4chan, on internet, columns and channels in the privacy, in the darkness, right? To being able to go on the mainstream television internationally and say, I'm a proud fascist. And so somewhere between there, we got to break their confidence, and no better way than to mock the fact that they did all this because they couldn't get laid.
Pastor Ben Dixon, cracking frames of incels and fascists as daily practice. Brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. We got to do this again, bro. I know we spent a lot of time on these airwaves over the last week or so. We got to keep it up. We got to keep this work on. I want to have you back on here as soon as.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. go to patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.